Honolulu has the most traffic congestion in the nation. Now, that's no surprise to the drivers here, but today I have two experts who can tell us why that is, and we can also talk about some of the solutions that are out there and what is and what is not being implemented. I'm Malia Zimmerman. Welcome to News Behind the News. Panos Prevedouros and Cliff Slater. Thank you for coming on the show. Panos, this is one of your, both of you have expertise in this area, but how about tell us a little bit about the study, and maybe both of you can talk about some alternatives that there are to help with traffic and what's been implemented and what hasn't.
Right. A little known fact is that this company that's behind it, INRIX, is really a powerhouse in transportation statistics. It's a spin-off of Microsoft, so it's a serious player, and their big claim to fame is their ability to analyze massive amounts of data from all metropolitan areas. Now they're expanding in Asia and Europe. One of their focus areas is also Honolulu. Now, part of the way they collect the data is by tracking cell phones. So they've been doing it now for several years, and always Honolulu was in the top 10, but never in the #1 spot. For 2012, we made it. Part of the reason is, and actually the city, their own analysis says that there is still prevailing recession in the mainland. The other cities have not recovered quickly enough after the big dip in 2008, 2009. So, but Honolulu regained quickly their tourism appeal and all, so our traffic really got to the top. Now, if you look more into the details, they really have spent a lot of time collecting data from Los Angeles. If you go to their site, they have over 40 freeway segments totaling over 500 miles. You go to our site, you see only 2 segments that they observed, all of them centering around Middle Street, and the total length is under 12 miles. So I believe the congestion index is worthy kind of representation, but it's not really representative of all the commutes on our island. There are, for example, people in Manoa that they reside in Manoa and they work at the UH. Their commute is 8 minutes. These people don't spend 58 hours, and also, even as an average, doesn't work very well, but it's an indication of at least spotty, severe congestion.
Good.
And you really should give credit to the city officials to get us into this #1 spot.
Yeah, of course, right? Because they've been sitting on their hands for a long time.
Worked
or
really
maybe
hard.
they haven't worked hard enough to
get
us into what the alternatives are, right? Well, I have to say that I did ask the city and county what their take. I asked Mayor Carlisle, about what are they doing besides. They say the rail is going to help alleviate traffic, although we know it's not going to. We can get into that later, but that that's what they're doing to alleviate traffic. And I said, what else are you doing? There's so many other alternatives to help cut traffic and make it go more smoothly, and there wasn't a response yet. I haven't been able to get a response on that.
Well, one thing that has been, in my view, totally overlooked, and Governor Cayetano's starting to talk about it now, is encouraging computer commuting. Okay,
telecommuting.
Telecommuting. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of software out there these days that allows employers to know when employees are working, when they're not, and that kind of thing, which worries a lot of employers. If you say, okay, you're going to allow your employee to work from home, how do you check on productivity? There's software to do that these days, and what I think it really needs is we really need a major convention where we can call in all the people who specialize in this area and tie them into the businesses and encourage businesses to have some of their employees telecommute. Mm-hmm. We have some cities now where the telecommuting percentage is greater than the public transportation use.
Wow.
It is absolutely, and that's what actually the 2000 census revealed, that actually telecommuting was approaching or even surpassed the proportion of people who travel by rail in the United States. And in 2010, it's even larger. Now, I will give you an example from my immediate family, which I was amazed to find out. My spouse has a secretary. She is in Okinawa. And she takes calls, and I called myself, and I said, but aren't you in Okinawa? She says, Katie is not in. Can I take a message? And then I said, but I recognize the voice. Who are you? And she said her name. but you left for Okinawa. Yes, I am in Okinawa. And she took the phone from an office that is physically located near Ala Moana Center, and the secretary is literally in Okinawa because her husband, of course, serves in the military. Amazing, and it was crystal clear. I mean, very similar to, of course, the phone calls we make for Visa and American Express for disputes, and all those fine workers are in India, and so you can do teleworking kind of work. It doesn't work for professions such as journalists. You have to go and interview. Salesmen, you have to make the calls. But quite a few professionals are particularly suited for telecommuting, and it's zero cost. And one thing that businesses and everybody needs to understand, it doesn't mean that when you do telecommuting, you do it all the time and forever. No, one day a week can make a significant difference. And that helps particularly very much working parents. One day a week, when they have a sick kid or whatever, they have the option to put 6 to 8 hours of work at home and even be constantly connected with the office.
And there's some people who will work from home for the first couple of hours in the morning and then go into town. Work during the non-rush hour part of the day, and then go back and finish off their other administrative work from home. And and that accounts for, I think, a great part of the wide shoulder that we have, the shoulder hours from, from like 5 a.m. to
6 a.m. to 6, 7 p.m. Yeah, that's right. So the original peak was, the typical in the mainland 9 to 5, and now it's 6 to 7 or 8. So that's exactly what we have now, the spreading of the work period.
Now, what else besides telecommuting could we actually have as alternatives to try to fix traffic? I mean, there's a lot of things out there besides what the city's doing.
Well, a lot of folks are fixated on a transit solution. So if we insist on improving our transit, because we do have, actually right before INRIX, 1 or 2 weeks before, what foundation came out with a ranking of public transit systems, and the bus ranked number 1.
Right.
And it ranks number 1 quite a bit.
Yes. So really we have a strength in transit service. Improve it. I don't know exactly where the current director we have is going with the pairing of the bus routes. And I tried to have a meeting with him and have a discussion. I mean, they done a very detailed report, and it showed that several routes probably need to be cut down and others to be boosted. And part of their success statistics have been with express buses. But when you look at express buses, they only have 2 in the morning on a specific route. It's simply too little. If you lose the 6 o'clock bus, the next one is at 7 o'clock. But give me a break now. This is not possible. You have to have at least half an hour interval. In fact, I think Ben Cayetano probably wants to have more concentrated express service, so the bus becomes more competitive. As Cliff will tell you that the express bus, the Country Express, is actually quite competitive, right, in travel time.
Yeah, in fact, today it's coming into downtown on average faster than the train will. I mean, it's remarkable.
What distance?
When you allow for the additional mileage to be completed to the Kapolei Transit Center.
Oh, so you mean Kapolei to town?
Kapolei Transit Center to town, okay. It's about a minute or 2 at worst. The bus is faster. Early on in the morning, it's like 10 minutes faster than what the train will be. Because the trains, first off, the route that they have is quite circuitous through the Everplain. It's not like direct from Kapolei Town Centre to, say, Waipahu. It curls around Ever Villages, etc. That's one thing. And then the train, it stops every mile, so it's not going to average. Theoretically, it's going to average 28. I think we'll be lucky if it averages 26.
Miles per hour, yeah.
Now, what about, we've talked about light synchronization before, and many mayors have talked about they're going to synchronize the lights, and then we have the Department of Transportation person from the state and the Department of Transportation person from the city, and they always talk about how they're going to work together. but it doesn't ever seem to get done. I mean, we don't have that light synchronization. What's up with that?
I can remember Mayor Blaisdell
Saying about that?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
now that's even further back than I thought. I was thinking of Fossey.
Fossey, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, Fossey did something, and nobody after him did any major technological updates. So by now, our traffic signal is at least 2 generations behind in terms of computer systems. But what is really lacking is investing the resources, and mostly human resources. I believe that, and I really appreciate that Ben Cayetano has understood this point, that these signals require that you have, for a city of our size, 15 to 20 people at least, of traffic experts and electronics experts, not maintenance personnel, just those to be on, because we have 800 traffic signals. It takes a substantial number of people to be on top of them. And I believe we have less than 6.
So this is all the time, all like a 24-hour cycle, you'd need that many, or
no, this is
just
actually
to
not
set it up?
surveillance. We probably don't need more than 6 positions to be in a constant rotation. So at every shift you have at least 2 or 1 at a minimum. But is the people that they really take the various regions of the traffic lights, and they work how they are being optimized and how they work. They don't necessarily have to go do the field study themselves. Now, Carlisle, like a couple of months ago, announced another 400,000 signal timing study, which every mayor routinely does. They find a big chunk of money and they send it to California. Those people come, do counts, and they give you optimal timings, which the city never implements because it doesn't have enough people to punch them in. Because literally, I mean, the consultant, and for good safety reasons, like I could be a consultant, I cannot touch the traffic lights. It's a safety, security issue. So you have to give them advice as a piece of software or a piece of paper. Those people that they have the clearances and it's a correct way to do it, then literally manually need to type the proper timings for the YLI and Capio line intersection. Well, if they don't do it, all that is a 400,000 worth of a pile of paper. And time and again, that's what happens. And our federal guideline says that you should be doing this routinely every 3 to 5 years. Now, more modern cities like Los Angeles, they said, you cannot do that because, the moment you do it, it's optimal and it's good for several months. But after a year, it begins to drift. So they have first generation systems, or actually, as you say, 5th or most modern, which is adaptive. They learn by themselves how flows flow, and they adjust by some methods of, modest artificial intelligence. We are, as I said, 15 years behind this technology.
So go ahead.
I mean, I think most people can understand when you're sitting at the traffic light and nothing's crossing in front of you, okay?
Yeah.
And it's enormously frustrating. If we could have the right sense, and it seems like when I looks like we have the sensing equipment, and we've got big black boxes on the corners, etc. But they're not interacting, and so it's as though you didn't have any sensing or computing equipment whatsoever. It's just the lights turn on a regular basis, whether there's traffic or not. And as Panos has often pointed out, we could have an incredible increase in mobility for automobiles in town if the traffic lights were properly computerized.
Computerized, yes.
Now, one of the things that the state mentioned under the Lingle administration, Governor Linda Lingle, was this flyover that was going to come over the freeway. I think it was a 2-lane situation where you could use it for emergency vehicles and things like that. But what happened to that? That disappeared. Remember, that was going to be...
You're talking about the
Nimitz Viaduct.
Nimitz
Nimitz
Viaduct.
Yes.
That seemed like that would save a lot of people time.
It's not a live project, but it's not a dead project. The project was actually fully engineered, and it kind of dead-ended around 1998, and it was under the Cayetano administration. It's in full design. It probably needs to be redesigned, to be honest, because it has too heavy a design. If we look, for example, what Tampa did, we need to use that kind of engineering. It will come in more economical and more aesthetically pleasing. But in terms of impacts, it has gone through full environmental review, and what was missing was the governor's signature. So I talked to Ben Cayetano about it, and he gave me some reasons why at the time he thought that the delay was necessary. And then after that, you know, a lot of other things went to his plate. And that project now, I verified a few weeks ago that the project is still exists in the shelves of the DOT. If the current governor wants to get it out off the shelf and begin to work on it, I believe it can go into construction in less than 2 years.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a possibility down the road.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
It expedites the traffic that now it really hits two bottlenecks. We have the airport viaduct. You come into town and your options is either you take Nimitz and then you hit the traffic lights, or you go through Middle Street and you hit the 2-lane choker in the tunnel. Not a very good option. This one gives you the option to fly to town. Now, this will do a tremendous impact, has a tremendous impact on express buses. This is one of the solutions that actually will make transit continuously competitive. So the viaduct, and in the afternoon now the state is planning to do the PM zipper. So we have the morning express, the afternoon express, and now we're proposing also through Ben Cayetano the possibility for the state, because it's not a city project, to consider allowing express buses on freeway shoulders, which is something Minnesota and a few other places are doing. Again, that makes the bus competitive or superior at minimum price to using the car.
Now, do we have room on the shoulder for that kind of thing?
And not everywhere, but
Yeah.
in specific segments. For example, we are investigating the opportunity of having Aloha Stadium to downtown express buses, because around Aloha Stadium is where another big knot begins to develop.
Yeah.
And so that to avoid having all these buses choked at Middle Street, so you channel them via a shoulder to King Street.
One of the advantages of the PM zipper lane is at the moment you've got a very fast commute into town in the morning on the Country Express bus C. Okay, 38 to 54 minutes, depending on what time you come into town. And that's from Kapolei Transit Center to downtown. But the problem is, you take the bus into town. If you want to take it back, now it's going to take you an hour and a half to go back. Okay, but once you don't have that zipper lane advantage. Once the PM zipper lane goes in, and you can look at 38 to 54 minutes in both directions.
Right.
I think you're going to see a tremendous increase in traffic there.
In ridership.
Ridership.
Yep,
Yeah.
Right.
very correct.
And we've also heard about this tunnel that you've talked about, or other alternatives.
Well,
Tell me about the tunnel.
The tunnel, I call it the non-brainer, because if you really look at our island and look at the political fathers that decided to create a second city out of nowhere, if I were to take back time 30 years, I would never go with Kapolei. I mean, we needed to concentrate our development in the core for between Pearl City and Kahala, essentially. Now the mistake has been done. It's a big deal. Now they're putting 150,000 people, Eva Beach, Kapolei, Makakilo. Okay, given that all these folks are there, why are we creating a rail serpentine going around town and taking 45 minutes plus, hyper expensive, very ugly to take them to town, go to Iroquois Point, cross across to the airport, cut under the airport golf course, you don't mess with the runways or anything, and get to Lagoon Drive. Lagoon Drive is already 6 lanes wide. Then take Lagoon Drive and connect to the Nimitz Viaduct we were just talking about. So the whole thing like this is somewhere between 7 or 8 miles instead of doing roughly 25 miles going on around. That's why I call it a non-brainer. I mean, these folks from Eva Beach literally can get to downtown in 12 minutes or less, if that was there.
And what kind of,
the
how much would that
expensive
cost?
project there is
Right.
the tunnel under the mouth of Pearl Harbor. Miami is doing a gorgeous and very long 1.75 miles, basically 2 miles under Harbor Tunnel for $1 billion.
That's a fraction of what we're spending on
Yeah,
the rail.
that's right. So maybe that's a good starting point for us. I mean, it's a far shorter thing than 1.75 miles, but Hawaii prices and everything and all. So, okay, give it $1 billion. Give it $1 billion to go from there, cut and cover then to Lagoon Drive. So the whole project will be really in the order of $2 billion or less, and provide all these Kapolei folks, the second city, access to downtown in 12 minutes or less.
A lot of common sense options out there that are not being implemented at this time. And why do you think that is?
Well, you know, it really makes it suspicious as to why nothing is done when they're focusing on the rail. And this has been going on for 20 years. I mean, for example, the signal synchronization. You have to believe that it's deliberate, because if you started solving the problems with the little things, okay, there would be less urgency in people's minds for a rail line.
There wouldn't be the traffic there is now.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So
One problem, you know, with the rail, it's in addition to everything we say that it's not going to work, it's hyper expensive and all. Every time you create a rail system, 10, 20 miles, it doesn't work. And you know what politicians say the next day when people don't show up? It's not long enough. You cannot win with these people. It has happened to Athens, it has happened everywhere. Systems do not work, and the immediate responses, obviously it doesn't go to Kailua, it doesn't go to Kaneohe, it doesn't go to Hawaii Kai, and it doesn't go to Mililani. That's why it doesn't work. 20 miles is not enough. We need 80 miles, and you know, by then we're completely bankrupt out of everything.
well, I've had many people tell me that. Why don't we build it all around the whole island?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
they don't.
We had the Carlisle proposition, Hawaii Kai. Now we have the Caldwell proposition, Kailua. Both
Kailua
of them,
people will
both
kill
of them,
him.
you know, 5-6 billion
They
is
will
not
have
enough
this-
for them.
Yeah.
They want to add another 5 billion to the whole thing.
You definitely don't want to
You-
put anything like that in Kailua.
The
They'll
thing,
have his head.
the thing that people forget is the history of rail. You know, I was pointing out this morning at City Council, if they're saying that it's going to come in on budget, and I told them if it came in on budget, it would be the first elevated heavy rail line to come in on budget since the 1800s.
Yeah,
No
in the history of the
elevated-
world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the history of the world.
Yeah.
The New York, Boston, there were some elevated steam lines that came in on budget, but since then they took them down, okay? And rail lines, we maximized rail transit mileage in 1917, and it's been kind of fading away ever since, until we get to 1970, and suddenly somebody gets the bright idea that if we subsidize it, then build it and they will come. Well, they didn't come.
You know, Cliff, you remind me, my advisor at Northwestern was criticizing exactly that. He has a very famous paper. Are we creating new life, or are we resuscitating a dinosaur? Yeah.
Yes.
Let me
It's-
throw some
it's-
fast questions out at you in the last 4 minutes of the show, 5 minutes of the show. Okay, is the rail going to save, is it going to cut down on traffic? Let's just get that out there right now, because that's what the city's now saying, that it's going to stop, it's going to take away traffic.
Well, what they're saying is that rail will take 40,000 car trips off the road every day. Well, that's fine, okay, but that's in the face of 520,000 new car trips, okay?
And how many total
So-
car trips are we talking about?
We're talking about it's about
Plus.
3 million.
3 million. So they're saying we're going to take out 40,000 car trips
Yeah, it's
out of 3 million.
Yeah,
with
we're
the
going to
rail.
have, if you round the numbers, we're going to have 500,000 new car trips every day, whether or not you build rail, right? So I mean, it is, as they say, a distinction without a difference. I mean, there's you know, you can talk about 40,000. It sounds wonderful, but when you get down to the numbers, there's nothing there.
It's nothing there. It's actually, any way you cut it with the numbers is the 1 to 1.5% solution. And we can understand that it's very hard to prove to anybody that if you cut traffic by 1%, it's going to see a result. You will not. But we can feel it on ourselves. If you really reduce your weight by 1%, nothing happened. The scale knows it, we don't know it. I mean, it's just,
I think a very good illustration of that was when they opened BART, the Trans-Bay BART. Now BART, when you come down to the core of why they built the BART rail line, okay, it was to clear the Bay Bridge, because the Bay Bridge was all jammed up the traffic, okay. The guys at the urban planning school in Berkeley, okay, this was their deal. And they the thing opened up on the first day, the trains were crowded, and it didn't make one whit of difference to the traffic on the Bay Bridge.
Right.
They all switch from buses.
If we get that far. Okay, quick,
Yeah.
what about jobs? Is it going to create jobs?
You will create some jobs, but they're temporary and nothing like what the city says. It's a construction project, and it's a linear construction project. So you do the first segment, the same people will do the next segment and the next. Bottom line, anytime you put it all together, Hilton Hawaiian Village generates much more jobs than the entire rail project.
We hear 10,000 jobs, but when we really look at what the city's doing, it's about 500.
Well,
right?
When you look at the 500 that they analyzed recently in the Advertiser, the selling point has always been construction jobs, local construction jobs. Well, there's 152 local construction jobs so far out of 508. Okay, so. And you're going to take these jobs, okay, and the construction jobs may double. But that's the group that's going to build the first segment, the second segment, the third, right the way through. There's you know, all these guys, it's a shame because I think it's a total scam. They've scammed the union leaders into believing that of these thousands of jobs, and they're not going to be thousands of jobs. There's going to be hundreds of jobs, but not thousands.
Okay, real quick, if you get on the bus and you get on the rail, if it's ever built at the same time, who's going to get to town faster? The express bus.
If you
get on the rail and you get on the bus, the express bus, and you're both going to town, who's going to get to town faster?
Well, when they open the day they open the rail line.
If they do open it, yeah.
All the express buses disappear.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So all the country.
But I mean, now if we timed it out, you were saying before that the buses actually would be faster to get to town than the rail.
Actually, it's about the same time for buses arriving around 8 o'clock. Okay. Earlier than that, buses that are coming in at 6 a.m. Okay, you're much faster. You're going to be much faster in the bus than the train, but the buses won't be there.
The point is that the bus will take you closer to your work because they have the ability to come closer to homes and workplaces.
So the lawsuit, there's still a possibility to stop the rail with Governor Cayetano's election if he's elected?
Not a possibility. It's a probability.
A probability, okay. And also the fact that you have your lawsuit, your federal lawsuit, which will be heard in August, and we'll have to do another show on that because we're running out of time, and we've done shows on it before. But yeah, so I just wanted to.
The recent publicity was just by the city was nonsense.
The
core of our lawsuit, which is the city failed to look at alternatives that would avoid the downtown historic districts. That's it. That's the core. That's where the pictures that we show all the time.
Yeah.
That's firmly in place. Will be heard on the 21st.
All right. Well, we're out of time, but people can get information on your website, HonoluluTraffic.com, on fixoahu.blogspot.com, and on HawaiiReporter.com.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. This has been News Behind the News. Aloha.